We are turning back the clock in this interview to the year of 2017, the year that James Cutting founded the Football Fun Factory. Here's what James had to say about this historic year. So James, when was the very first Football Fun Factory session?
The first FFF session took place in September 2017 at Red Lodge Sports Pavilion. It was a monumental moment for me because it was my first ever session for my own business, and it was a really exciting moment. But yeah, I look back on that session fondly. I've got photographs of the night so I can relive it, and they're all actually taken on a camera that was time-stamped in the corner so I can actually see the date, so I'll never forget it.
So what can you remember about promoting the sessions ahead of the launch?
Yeah, I remember thinking, I wonder how this is going to go, and I had no idea really. I remember promoting locally, putting up posters, going into shops and post offices in the local area because I thought, you know, are there going to be 3 children? Are there going to be 30? It was somewhere in between. We had 15 kids that came along to that first ever session. It's really enjoyable. But I remember just working so hard to cover every angle really and leave no stone unturned to make people in the local area aware that the Football Fun Factory was coming.
So who were the first assistant coach that helped deliver that first ever Football Fun Factory session?
There's a lad called George Eastwood, and I'll forever be grateful for his involvement in the Football Fun Factory. So he came along, he was 16 years old at the time, and he just volunteered, completely unpaid. He just wanted to support me with the running of this session.
Nice, and you're good with names, James, so I'm going to challenge you here. Can you remember any of the first 15 children that came to that session?
Wow, that has put me on the spot. Do you know what? There's a little girl called Evie, who I think was 5 or 6 at the time, and she participated with Football Fun Factory for many, many years, and I'm pretty sure she was in the first ever session. So yeah, I can remember 1 or 2. There was a lad called George, and there was a lad called Billy. Whether he was there at the first session or not, I'm not too sure, but yeah, I do remember certainly the faces of the original participants and some of the names as well.
Nice. And how did you grow that session of 15 children to where it got to when you sort of finished up?
It was just unprecedented demand. Obviously worked really hard to get the kids to attend and make people aware in the local area. And off the back of that, got 15 kids attending the first session, and then we put on a second session straight after that and had another 15 children. So before I knew it, I had an evening where it was a really successful part of the business, and that really kicked off the Football Fun Factory. Beyond that, we then just had lots of children in other areas that were keen to, and that's why we then looked at other areas where we could launch programs as well.
Nice. And what can you remember about that sort of experience of those early days, launching the sessions and launching the business in different areas?
I remember that when we went into new areas, it was always really exciting. New locations, obviously really grew it across the local area and actually put multiple nights on at the same week at the same venue and opened up a TOTS program. And I can just remember it being incredibly exciting. You know, when you're establishing something for the first time, of course, there's a huge passion from a football coaching point of view, giving children wonderful experiences too. But to have your own little football coaching business, having worked in the football coaching kind of industry and in revenue generating programs before, to do that for myself, I just remember feeling a huge sense of excitement, and as going into those sessions, just absolutely loved every minute of it.
Nice. And I'm sure everyone watching this video will know about your sort of excitement levels and your incredible self-belief. Did you ever have any doubts when you were starting the Football Fun Factory?
Not really, and I don't want that to come across as egotistical or arrogant in any way, but I knew that there would be an appetite for what we had to offer. So Football Fun Factory, as people know, offers incredible opportunities for children to just come along, relax, enjoy themselves, play and have fun. We had children in that very first session that were really talented, and we had a little girl who was 5 years old who had never kicked a ball before, and somehow we made it work between me and George running that session, split them into groups, and somehow it worked. And I think that I knew that there was a place in the market really for children to just have all of the shackles released and just go and play and have fun. I guess the one thing that took me by surprise was the speed and how quickly things took off from there, and how quickly then, you know, a few months later I was running that as my full-time business. But no, never any doubts. I knew the FFF was going to be a roaring success.
And obviously over those 6 years, the Football Fun Factory's grown to incredible heights nowadays. Do you miss coaching?
Do I miss coaching? Yes, I do. I miss going out onto an AstroTurf and having that buzz of the experience that you can give to a child. I'm really fortunate that I can go and do that at any time. So I can jump in during a school holiday, get my tracksuit on, go and deliver a session. I've got 450 sessions all over the country where I can go and pop up and run a session, and I'm sure the head coach would be more than happy for me to do so. I'm in a fantastic position where I can literally pick and choose, and I do. And when I go and jump in and do a session, I get the bug for it again and absolutely love it. So I'm not in a position where I can do that on a weekly basis, because your time becomes really valuable when you're trying to grow and scale a franchise business and try and impact more and more children. But yeah, I do miss coaching, and I absolutely love it when I get the chance to step back onto the AstroTurf pitch or sports hall and put smiles on kids' faces.
Nice. I'm going to throw one more question in there. Obviously, we've got 450 sessions on a weekly basis across the whole of the UK. What has been the most memorable session that you've coached at that wasn't in Red Lodge?
That has put me on the spot, Ollie. The most memorable session, I would say, that was actually just overcoming adversity. So I remember a session in St Ives in Cambridgeshire, and it was just a bit of a nightmare really, where we turned up to the venue and there was a problem with the venue, problem with the AstroTurf. We had to go on the grass, and it just turned into an absolute mud bath because the heavens opened and the rain came pouring down. But at the end of that session, the kids were just absolutely buzzing. They went home with a massive smile on their face, and I came from an industry and background where that would have been a disaster, and it's unprofessional because it was a professional football club environment where it was before. But actually it really taught me a lesson that it didn't really matter what the surface was, that it was grass instead of Astro. It didn't really matter that all these kids were caked in mud. In fact, in some ways it added to the experience. So I think that when you're facing a challenge, we say at the FFF, every challenge is an opportunity. So that was a really memorable moment for me, and one that I've carried with me really, in terms of understanding that what parents are actually looking for their child isn't necessarily the best 4G AstroTurf pitch. It's the smile on their face at the end of the session and in the car on the way home.
So here we are, 6 years on from the launch of the Football Fun Factory. So much has happened in that time. I wonder what's going to happen in the next 6 years.